Okay, we're going to continue reading. Well, I don't think she was listening. We're going to continue reading The Mystery of History, Volume 1. Yeah. We are on Lesson 7, the Sumerians. And we have Peekaboo, so she might get noisy. So go ahead. We're going to go ahead. Guinevere, you need to stop talking so I don't have to shout over you. You can look, but I don't want you talking. Do you know what defines a civilization? In simple words, a civilization exists when you have lots of people living near one another who depend on each other for existence. People typically become really good at one craft or skill, so they begin to trade their languages or their expertise for that of someone else. A civilization also includes laws, government, and written language. We begin to see signs of all this and more after the flood in a group of people called the Sumerians. The Sumerians, I don't know why I can't pronounce it all of a sudden, emerged in the Fertile Crescent about 2300 BC. The Fertile Crescent was named for its rich, lush farmland that on a map looks like a shape of a crescent roll. This land is located between the Tigris and the Euphrates River in Iraq. In fact, the Greeks called this area Mesopotamia, which means land between the rivers. Others call this spot the cradle of civilization because signs of early man exist there. These terms all refer to the same area in Iraq. The Sumerians were quite an amazing group of people in regards to the things they accomplished. You see, after the flood, much of man's achievement and skills would have been lost. Remember Tubal-Cain?
No.
Remember he was the one that constructed iron? No. That we read about him. He knew how to construct iron. Apparently that skill was lost with the flood.
Oh yeah, I remember. Mom, I remember that. In Christmas time, we're gonna have that Christmas tree.
Yeah, but that's nothing we're reading about, Granny. Didn't I tell you to change your pajamas? Okay, no, you're still in your pajamas. So when we're done reading, you have to go change out that shirt. Someone take the Legos away from Winry, please.
Now one.
Gwen, take the Legos away from Winry. Put them up where she can't reach them, please. The Sumerians were quite an amazing group of people in regards to the things they accomplished. You see, the flood, much of man's achievements and skills would have been lost. I read that. However, the Sumerians show us again that early man possessed intelligence. They built an astonishing city in a relatively short amount of time. Excuse me. For example, the cities of Sumer had laws and irrigation systems. Some homes had flushing systems for their toilets and hot and cold running water. They were more advanced than some places of our world today. Edward. As for art, the Sumerians crafted small but ornate terracotta statues of people with overly exaggerated eyes. They also had calendars, poetry, and libraries, and they may have invented the wheel. Not bad for such an ancient people group. The Sumerians were best known for a written language called cuneiform. In Latin, the word cunus means wedge. The shape of wedge best described the 600 symbols the Sumerians invented to represent sounds. They were pressed into clay tablets with a reed stylus that had a triangular point. That point allowed them to create different wedge shapes. Can you imagine having to learn 600 letters of the alphabet? Guys, can you imagine having to learn that many letters of the alphabet so you could read?
No.
These are early people created schools just for that purpose. They called them eduba, or tablet houses. We know that the Sumerians' way of life primarily from the great discovery of Sir C. Leonard Woolley, who found the royal tombs in the city of Ur. He discovered that in the early 1900s greatly helped support the idea that man had been far more than a cave dweller at the beginning. Part of Leonard's finding in Ur included a large and elaborate ziggurat. That's the name of a tiered structure that looks like flattened pyramids with steps. The purpose for the ziggurat was to worship idols, which the people created to help them understand life. Religion was important to the Sumerians, but their knowledge of the one and only God was distorted. They believed in many gods and were unsure of life after death. In their burial chambers of the wealthy, Woolley found people buried with their earthly treasures and at times with their favorite attendants. It is believed that the Sumerians needed these things in their attendance for the next life. Do you know any famous Sumerians by name?
No.
You might. Abraham of the Old Testament came from Sumer. According to the Bible, God called him to leave the city of Ur in Sumer with the promise of God's blessings. Knowing what you know about Sumer, you may better appreciate the courage of Abraham to leave so much behind for the sake of his faith. All right. And for young students, if you wanted to do the project today, you make your own cuneiform tablet. You need clay, a rolling pin, craft stick, or a butter knife. And then you can go ahead and read what is written there.
Bye. Here's
You gonna say goodbye?
Bye. Here is my Star toys. I like them a lot because they're fun. Because some of them I just keep washing pieces. And have a nice day. Thank you for listening. I have something to tell them.
What?
I have a ducky blanket, and I have Legos, and we have school books. Bye, bye, bye.